This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This table is really tilted.
Excuse me? Am I gonna get a chance to speak?
Maybe I should take that back.
Denied. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Take a giant step for mankind.
Welcome to the Tilted Table with your hosts, Sean and Joe.
Folks, welcome to another episode of The Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I am Sean Kavivi.
And I'm Joey Joe, the Fracky Mac.
And this week has been rough for children of the 80s. We have lost.
Understatement.
Yeah, we have lost two iconic people and one, I think, important person in the mix. I hate to make one seem less than, but when, you are Ozzy Osbourne and you pass away, that's iconic. You can't get more iconic than Ozzy Osbourne, especially coming from me as a musician. To today, so that'll label our episode. I think it's today. Hulk Hogan passed away. Yeah, iconic. Not as iconic as Ozzy, or maybe equally.
I would say equally.
Equally as iconic in a different way.
If you were just to tell someone, I'm going to give you two colors. Tell me what you think. Red and yellow. They'd be like, Hulkster.
Yeah, I would say most people probably would say that. And we also lost Malcolm Jamal-Warner, who played Theo on The Cosby Show. Again, if you are unfamiliar with The Cosby Show, you may not really know who Malcolm Jamal-Warner is, but he played Bill Cosby's oldest son on the show. That show was iconic. Maybe Malcolm Jamal-Warner wasn't iconic, but that show was freaking iconic.
100%.
And unfortunately, Bill Cosby has torched his own iconic status with the allegations against him, the convictions. I'm not really sure where it stands. I know he's out of prison now, so I don't know if they dropped something or found something else out. I don't really follow it that closely. Yeah. But we lost three, and there's always that the myth of celebrities die in threes. And if that is the case, boy, it came to fruition.
Fast and furious this week.
Yeah, and it all happens to be, again, iconic people from the 80s. Although I guess you could say Ozzy's always been kind of iconic. Hogan, I think, kind of too. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, if you're a child of the 80s, it's been a rough week.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally this morning, Cookie and I, we go to, well, as you know, we're Catholic. We go to Mass every Thursday, and I walked out, and Cookie handed me my phone as we're getting in the car, and I see like a flood of text messages. Like my very first inclination was like, did my house burn down? Did something catastrophic happen? And I clicked on the first text message, and yeah, something catastrophic happened. Just in reading my friend's text message, did Hulk Hogan just die? It was like I felt like part of my own childhood just ended, and like when you turned off an old TV and it was kind of like woo, yeah, right. It just felt like that part of my life just went away immediately. So, and speaking of, I mean, iconic is. As children of the 80s, I think everybody was jumping off of the back of the couch onto their brother or sister, I'm the Hulkster.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, brother?
We did all of that stuff. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if people fully grasp, especially if they're younger, that the golden era of wrestling was the 80s into the early 90s. It was a time period where it still wasn't clear whether it was real or not. So it had that added sort of mysticism to it, where it's like, these larger than life warriors. And a lot of people thought it was real. I think adults knew it wasn't, but kids still, believed that it was real. And a lot of these wrestlers, almost all of them, I think Hogan may be the one exception, they didn't cross over. So they were wrestlers. They didn't do movies. Now, you have like The Rock and things like that, and, John Cena and was it Batista, who's actually a really good actor. So, obviously now I don't think anybody believes in any way, shape, or form that it's not scripted. It's totally scripted. So I think a lot of the sort of the innocence of wrestling is gone. And during that time period, it was, I think, at a pretty big height. It was largely produced. It was massive productions, top dollar. And people still had a feeling that like Hulk Hogan was this real person that was this all-American, good guy fight the bad guy. And yeah, I mean, it was just, a great time for wrestling. And yeah, we were all jumping off of sofas and putting each other in camel clutches and
Yeah.
bullshit ass moves. They're hurting each other because those moves are kind of real.
But I think you're 100% right on all those things. I think it goes even farther though, and it's embedded into 80s kids DNA in the terms that you had. That's the height of the Cold War, right? You had Ronald Reagan, Gorbachev, the Soviet Union, and then you had the great American hero Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
That's right when Nintendo first comes out. One of their very first video games is pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And there's a little character in pro wrestling that looks just like Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
Toys were kind of becoming a thing, like plushie dolls.
Yeah.
So it was, even if you weren't watching wrestling, because it wasn't, obviously TV wasn't like back then. If you wanted to watch it, you needed to be sitting there at the time that it came on.
Yeah.
Right. And if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah.
So it was and even when you weren't around your television, the Hulkster was still kind of floating in the periphery in some manner, whether it's advertisements, the colors red and yellow, American flags, the good guys will beat the bad guys. Bodybuilding shows were becoming big. He was kind of iconic for that. So he's the perfect epicenter of like the goodness of 80s America, at least for me. And I think he's such a great role model for kids back then. Was the whole thing like eat your vegetables, listen to your parents.
Yeah, eat your vitamins, say your prayers.
Yeah,
and sadly, he's in real life kind of a piece of shit, but got busted for a bunch of different things. He's gotten hit pretty hard for some of the dumb shit he's done.
Yeah, but you're right. But I think like the end of his life, there was a huge amount of redemption. He did a lot of really great things for the country. He was, a patriot. He was, there were some middle spots of his life that were kind of spotty.
And I'm not trashing Hulk Hogan. I don't think he is any worse than most people. I think what it is that he was just exposed as being human. And the one thing about 80s wrestling was these people were larger than life. They transcended that. So as a kid, you buy into the persona of Hulk Hogan and you legitimately think it's real because you think wrestling is real. You think this is all real. Even in hindsight, I'll watch a lot of their promos and I'm surprised even as a kid, I didn't realize how fake these people really are. And so I'll give you an example. So Roddy Piper. See, I believed him to be Roddy Piper, this absolute jackass asshole. But the one thing about Roddy was he was just a guy that was a dick. Like that was the persona. So it was still believable because everyone knows an asshole and the guy's an asshole. But you had people like the Honky Tonk Man who was this Elvis impersonator. And I thoroughly believe this is this guy. Like this is just basically who he was. And even at that point, I should have been able to realize like, well, obviously this is an act of some sort, right? It's a gimmick. And the same with Macho Man. Like I never as a kid thought that Randy Macho Man Savage was anything but that guy. Like that's how he acted and talked all the time. It'd be like in a restaurant, yeah, give me a coffee, whatever, like whatever he's ordering something, whatever. That's his persona, and I'm surprised. I was pretty observant as a kid. I could see bullshit, but for whatever reason, I was bought and sold into wrestling. And it wasn't until I was probably 12 or 13 that I started to realize I'm like, well, these are just characters they're playing, and Hulk Hogan is just another character. But I don't think, when you build yourself up like that and you get caught with any indiscretion, it looks even worse because people had this image of him as being literally this like,
beyond reproach.
Yeah. Like he's not someone that's going to do anything remotely bad. He's a superhero. And what we find out is he's human just like everybody else. Yeah. And I watch a lot of, wrestling interviews, a lot of the old cats. And a lot of people have real negative things to say about him. He wasn't a particularly good coworker, that he sabotaged a lot of people's careers. But again, I can't really fault him for that because like wrestling, if you look at wrestling, people come in and go out real quick. You find out they weren't making a ton of money. So if it's your job, like anybody else, you're going to do what you have to do to keep your job. And Hulk Hogan was trying to stay at the top as long as he possibly could. So when he saw any threat to that, he did what he could to, sort of derail people so he could, stay at the top. Yeah,
and it's very a wise summary that you just gave. And I think the other thing too about that period of time is, for context, he was in his 20s, right?
No, actually, I think that when he won the heavyweight championship against Sheik, he was 30.
Okay, well, when he went into, like, that was when I forget the name of the smaller league that he came from.
Well, there was a bunch of smaller promotions.
Yeah.
So it
like,
could have been any.
But yeah, anyway, so starting from them, but you have to think like somebody's already like famous and becoming, a global superstar. Like, okay, we'll just say 30. At 30 years old, you're probably gonna, ladies are throwing themselves at him, right?
Yeah.
Kids are adoring. You see your name up on the big lights. You walk into the stadium, and everybody's got a sign. Everybody wants to be you. Guys want to give you a high five. Like,
oh yeah,
of course it's going to go to your head, and it's probably going to affect you in a non-positive manner, and you'll probably take it too far. And I think that's just human nature.
Yeah.
I love I do love the 80s Hogan, and I do love the last 10 years Hogan, when he kind of found humility, got involved in children's charities and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a great book ending of a career.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing he really got in trouble for, having sex with his friend's wife, and it was filmed, and that made him look bad. But that's not necessarily, adultery is adultery. I don't really, it's not something that I'm promoting, but on the scale of bad things you can do, it's, not even near the top.
Yeah, not good.
It's not near the top. The other thing was he said the N-word and made some derogatory comments towards black people when his daughter Brooke was cutting a record. So they tried to make her a pop star, and she's doing, music, and all the producers that were working with her, all these black guys. And I don't know if she was dating one of them or messing around with one of them, but he made a comment that I don't want my daughter ending up with an N-word, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And he got a lot of heat for that. And in this day and age, you can't say that, and you're going to get absolutely canceled.
Right. I do have, it's actually, I've got an autograph picture on one of the walls in the house of I enjoyed Hulk Hogan. I really liked Hollywood Hogan.
Oh, the evil Hogan?
Yeah. So I actually have an autograph picture of Hollywood Hogan shaking hands, and it's also autographed by Dennis Rodman.
Oh shit! Right on.
Yeah. So I refer to that wall in the house as my wall of good evil guys.
Yeah. Well, you stuck with wrestling a lot longer than I did, because by the time he left and went to, what was that promotion?
WCW.
I'd stopped watching wrestling. I can remember the moment I stopped watching wrestling, which was, I think, in the 6th grade. It was after WrestleMania 3 when he beat Andre the Giant. And after that, I just lost interest. I don't really know why. I was just getting older. I'm figuring out that it wasn't real. I think it's part of it too.
One of my favorite videos that's gone viral today is Hogan is at his shop in Florida, and the little kid walks into the shop dressed as Hulk Hogan and like kind of does the banter back and forth. I think that is Americana, like, in a nutshell right there. I love that.
Yeah,
video.
definitely. Hogan did a lot more good than he ever did bad. And again, most of the stuff that he did, I don't really hold him, as like a bad person. Although earlier in the podcast, I kind of alluded that he's a piece of shit. I think maybe that's too strong. I think he's human, and like all humans, he has a number of flaws. And the stuff that I do know that he's done that isn't, particularly, good, I don't think is really all that bad. So, yeah, rest in peace to the greatest wrestler that ever lived. No one ever is going to touch the levels that he had.
Yep.
Not even close.
No. R.I.P. Terry. And I know it's one of the funny things is, like, in this last election cycle, I think I was actually here. You and I were recording, and I would say it was the evening of the RNC, and my phone started blowing up with clips from Hogan speaking at the RNC, and they're like, "Dude, you're missing out." This is all friends texting me. You're missing out on the Hulkster right now. So I think that's another neat thing about his life is he was always relevant.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, wrestling is still really, really popular, and if you go into the 90s and the 2000s, I don't think it waned a whole lot. Just, you need a new generation of kids to buy into it. And I mean, you had The Rock was massively, popular. So yeah, Hogan was always in the mix, and he's always going to be relevant. I mean, again, you can't get any bigger than Hulk Hogan.
You think Fu Manchu mustache, Hogan, right? You think bandana, Hogan. You think the wraparound glasses, black and white with feathers.
And skullet.
Yeah, they got the skullet. Yeah, or you think red and yellow. There's like so many things. Waving a flag. I mean, he was the first person to ever do that in a ring.
Yeah. They tried to imitate that. There was a number of wrestlers that tried to grab onto that Americana or, support America. And yeah, it just never resonated like Hogan.
Yeah, no, just death of a legend, man.
Yeah.
Death of a legend.
Yeah, it's too bad, but the guy did a lot of steroids. I'm surprised he lived as long as he did.
Well, yeah, and he openly talked about that. And
Oh, yeah.
so when I saw the news this morning as Cookie and I were walking across the parking lot, it was sad, but I can't say it was unexpected.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, R.I.P. big man.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Leave a like on the video. I know you're enjoying this. Can you shut up?
The internet's answer to a question that was never asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
And another person that surprised they lived as long as they did is Ozzy Osbourne.
Holy mackerel, man. Him and Keith Richards is like two of the guys, some of the hardest living on the planet, lasted the longest.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. It's funny. Me and my friend Chris just had a conversation Friday night where he was telling me that they did some kind of scan on, I don't know if this is true or not, but did some kind of scan on Ozzy's body, or they did some kind of testing and found that he had some kind of odd DNA structure that they believe is the reason why he's been able to punish himself so much.
Oh, really?
And yeah, like this is, the way I equated it was like, what are you calling him, like a turtle? Like a turtle's lived like 150 years old or whatever it is. Like he's got, now again, I don't know if that's true or not. It sounds like a bunch of crap to me, but who knows? It could be true. And it's just ironic that after, he's telling me that, 2-3 days later, Ozzy dies. Like, well, I got some genes. Everything has an expiration date.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Ozzy is iconic, and this coming from a musician that grew up on that kind of music. And I'm gonna say this to preface anything we say about Ozzy. I was never a massive Ozzy fan.
Were you a Sabbath fan?
Not really, but Sabbath was a little bit before my time. I like Sabbath, generally speaking, and I liked Ozzy's solo work. But a lot of people really put Ozzy on this level. And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. Again, I'm just not a particular fan of him. I recognize that he is a god amongst, metal, hard rock musicians. So I'm not taking that away. But yeah, I mean, when you talk about iconic, especially, when metal first started really getting more mainstream in the 80s and getting more on the radio, Ozzy was the sort of the poster child, of the whole movement. Mm-hmm. And anytime you talked about true metal, you talked about Sabbath because they quote unquote invented heavy metal. I have some issues with that, but essentially they are the ones that basically were the first to become big off of it.
Right. And
then Ozzy as a solo artist just embodied, the Prince of Darkness. Like, he embodied the whole metal kind of image. And yeah, I mean, sad loss. And again, not unexpected. He's been sick for a long time. Mm-hmm. And again, like Keith Richards, every day I wake up, I'm like, is that guy still alive? I mean, I'm expecting him to die every day.
Right.
Right. So I think I thought the same way about Ozzy. So when it finally happened, the only thing that was surprising to me was it was right after the, the final Black Sabbath show, the whole like, this is the end. And a lot of people think that, we're programmed that when we're ready to go, we go. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think that last show was, he stayed alive long enough to make sure that he could get this one show off with the original members of Black Sabbath and do the whole tribute to him. And yeah, after that, I think he was, finished. He's done. And so, he cashed out.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. And I do say this tongue-in-cheek funny in a fond way, is you read earlier articles about Ozzy and his daily routine, and it reminded me of, like, have you seen Hunter S. Thompson's like daily diet?
I mean, I have a friend that's really into Hunter S. Thompson. I'm not super familiar with him in terms of like his books or his writings. Obviously, I've seen, what was it? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm familiar with Hunter S. Thompson as a person enough. I don't know what his daily routine is or was. He's dead, but and I don't know what period of time you're talking about. If you're talking about the heyday of his drug use, his daily routine was to eat LSD all day long.
Yes. So yeah, basically,
and drink excessively.
Oh yeah, it was. He'd wake up at 3:00 and he'd have Chivas Wriggle, some cocaine, another glass of Chivas Wriggle, a cup of coffee, more cocaine.
Okay.
Followed by a little bit more cocaine. with a chaser of cocaine.
With a chaser of cocaine.
And, that reminded me as I was reading about, like, what was Ozzy's daily routine like? And the fact that he lived that vibrant and creative of a life through all of these decades, and was, I guess a lot of the credit needs to go to Sharon for keeping him in line.
Yeah, Sharon's a big part of it.
Oh, yeah, because he... no pun intended, get completely off the rails.
No. Well, I'm going to say this, and again, I'm trying to avoid saying anything negative about Ozzy Osbourne, especially I don't want to say negative about anybody that just passed. But, the idea that his creative forces, like how did he create all this music? Well, he really didn't. His musicians that he hired did. That's a lot of the reason there was a lot of lawsuits. Jakey Lee, who was his guitar player during the Bark at the Moon era, it sued him, and saying like, part of the problem with being in Ozzy's band was to be his guitar player. Whatever you wrote, Ozzy owned. And, some of the classic songs, and I'm going to say some, I'm going to say probably most of the classic songs, most of that material, I'm not saying he didn't have any input into it, but I can guarantee you that he had 10% to do with most of those songs. And now they're attributed to him because part of the contract is that he would get the rights to it. And that's Sharon doing that as well. She's a great businesswoman.
Very shrewd.
Yeah. So, you look at Ozzy and go like, how does someone that fucked up produce, this, it takes a lot of work to do music. Well, look at the context. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything. I'm just saying is that the real hard work he was not doing. Yeah. So
see, I don't, on the flip side, I don't actually know much about Ozzy. Anything I know about Ozzy is really was from watching the Osbournes on MTV.
Well, a lot of younger people, that's where they would know him from.
Because you and I have had lots of music conversations on Tilted Table podcast. The Black Sabbath was like off of my parents' radar. That was like a bridge too far for them.
Yeah.
So I never, growing up, I never had access to any of those albums. And then anytime that I would reach for something like that, like at a record store or whatever, it was like, yeah, you can't even touch that.
Get away
stuff.
from that.
Yeah, that's of the devil.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. That was their whole shtick.
Right. And even, so then you go into like Ozzy's solo career. And even, when I did start listening to heavy metal, it was like, I think I was a little post his popular or the height of his era. And so I was moving forward and he was kind of in the rearview mirror. So it's kind of like one of those really important figures in music, but not somebody that I really paid attention. But, it's like you think of like, who are the titans of this part of music history?
Oh, yeah. He's on the Mount Rushmore.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, not just being, again, founding member of the band that is credited with inventing heavy metal, but the fact that he was prolific the entire time, he never waned into the 80s, 90s, and he was always performing and recording albums. So, you look at the span of any music genre, we're talking about metal. Most of these bands, they're lucky if they can cut 2 or 3 albums and their career's over.
Yep, done.
And most of them were just one albums. They got a piece of the pie and then they were kind of pushed to the side. So to have that sort of enduring quality, and to be somebody who is, credited with, being a founding member of the genre of music. Yeah, I mean, you can't get any more iconic than Ozzy in the world of heavy metal. And, of course, that just means you're going to transcend beyond that. And, of course, television show and other things that he did. Yeah, he transcended all that. And so, yeah, I mean, when you talk about the death of Ozzy Osbourne, you're talking about the true end of an era. Yeah.
Well, even I didn't, I've never been to Ozfest, but I mean, even to have like a festival that's literally an homage to yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Not that that's how it was set up at all, but
it was kinda.
But like again, that's another great Sharon idea right there.
Oh God, yeah.
Right.
And I mean, look at most of those bands that were playing Ozfest. Were influenced by him. Again, even me not being a really big fan of Ozzy, I mean, I was influenced by him. My favorite album from him is No More Tears. And there's a song on there called Mr. Tinker Train. I mean, you listen to that song, and if you don't want to put your head through a fucking wall, listen to that. You don't have a soul. It's just an amazing song. That album is amazing. I don't think there's even one bad track on that album. Now, that's my personal preference for Ozzy. Other people might look at something like Bark at the Moon or other albums from his solo career. But yeah, so if you played metal at any point in your life, you were influenced at least to some degree by Ozzy Osbourne.
And I mean, even like the way that he dressed, and then the always wearing those little glasses.
I got a pair of those circular glasses,
Yeah,
so people would call them your Ozzy glasses.
If someone literally, like, you know, Halloween, like holds up a plastic bat, you'd be like, you look at the bat and you would say, oh, that's, what are you going to bite the head off of it?
Yeah, and that's why he lived for so long.
Yeah.
People don't know the nutritional value of bats.
Well, it's not just the source of the C word.
No, yeah, it's not. Right? It's not just the source of that evil word that shall not be mentioned.
Yeah. But yeah, R.I.P. to a legend of the industry.
Yeah.
And a formation in many people's lives.
Yeah. And again, end of an era. I mean, metal, hard rock and metal has been on the downside for a long time. And boy, it's just another blow, you know, just to sort of, someone's out there trying to write the final chapter on this music. Obviously, it won't be, you know, it'll live as long as people are listening to it and playing it. And there's plenty of bands out there, young people that are, you know, doing it. But when you talk about, you know, if you were going to end a book about heavy metal, I think you just wrote the last one with the death of Ozzy Osbourne.
Facts, man. Yeah. Facts.
And we also lost Brian Wilson this year too.
That's sad, man.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, my family was really big into like hot rods, street rods. Going to like, I think they're still around. It's called the Good Guys, and they do like basically like old school 32 Ford Pro Street, like alcohol cars and whatnot.
Right.
And the thing about that scene is, you know, Beach Boys music is always on the sound system.
Yeah.
You know, pumping throughout these fairgrounds and giant facilities. So even growing up, I had my favorite t-shirt that I wore that had a 32 Ford High Boy on the front, and on the back of the t-shirt was the entire lyrics to Surfin' USA.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like, and I only wore this t-shirt on special occasions. So Brian Wilson has always been, I guess, part of my life, and like in the extreme peripherals. But in college, one of my favorite classes I took was an upper division writing class, and it was on the history of rock and roll. And we wrote, or I wrote this whole paper on the Beach Boys song or first album, Pet Sounds.
Yeah, classic.
Which is basically genre changing for all of rock and roll.
Yeah. I mean, I was born in L.A., so I grew up surrounded by the Beach Boys. I mean, if you're from California, they were massive on a national, probably worldwide scale. But damn, in Southern California, they were considered gods.
Yeah, I mean, you could just like throw out words like Little Deuce Coupe, Good Vibrations.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't It Be Nice? And anybody, you just like say the name of the song. Even I think maybe not people like 20 years old now, but anybody say 30 or older, and you'll be like, oh yeah, totally the Beach Boys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So you know, it's Brian Wilson's creative talent is kind of woven through, you know, California music history. I think kind of the weird thing is I read this book recently that was on Project Ultra. And Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys relationship with Charles Manson.
Yeah.
So yeah, when
he was friends with Dennis. Dennis Wilson, the drummer.
Yeah. And actually lived with him for a while.
Yeah.
So,
he was. Yes. Manson was around the Beach Boys.
So it's kind of in Brian's passing. It's like it's death of part of like pop culture, which I think is. You know, as we all, you know, growing up, you would always hear old people say, well, the older you get, like the faster it goes, or the more people that you'll lose.
Yeah, that's just true.
But it's, I think the last, you know, month, or especially this week, but the last month, 2 months has been like, you know, death of parts of our own personal history.
Yeah.
So while I don't necessarily have a personal affinity or anything for, you know, Brian Wilson directly, definitely like the Beach Boys, that's part of like a foundational part of my early music collection.
Yeah, I think, you know, Wilson is considered pretty much iconic. I think the difference with him compared to, say, Ozzy would be that at some point he kind of disappeared. I know he had some mental issues. So there was a long time that he was inactive. And then, of course, the mental issues became kind of a key thing that started to overshadow the music, especially by the 1980s. Because the Beach Boys weren't really producing anything groundbreaking anymore. They were becoming kind of goof act for the most part.
Yeah,
you
like
know,
a
so
fairground touring in the summer.
Yeah, and I mean, again, they were groundbreaking for their harmonies and what they did, but they also centered their entire, image on beach surfing. And they never, I think, tried to steer away from that. They just steered into it.
Yep.
And there's only so many songs you can write about, surfing and beaches.
Convertibles and bikinis.
Yeah, and as you get older, it gets creepier.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, and then it became like they had a resurgence with Kokomo. And again, it became like they were the basically the house band for middle-aged white people.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I'm not removing anything from Brian Wilson. Again, when you think in terms of music, he is, to me, equally as iconic as Ozzy would be, for sure. Because again, I mean, he ushered in recording techniques, writing. How to sing things that nobody else was doing.
Sound engineering.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's insane what he pioneered. You know, so any album you're listening to, if you think it sounds good, he probably had a hand in opening the door up, so people couldn't even do that. Like, oh yeah, I figured this out. Brian Wilson figured that out 20 years ago. And then you have Malcolm Jamal-Warner, Theo from the Cosby Show. And obviously this part, I don't think I'm going to be talking too much about Malcolm Jamal-Warner as a person. I don't know too much of what he did after the Cosby Show. He did have a sitcom with Eddie Griffin in the 90s that lasted a few seasons, kind of a buddy sitcom or whatever. But that show, the Cosby Show, was just absolutely massive.
Oh, it was hugely massive. I remember I lived with my grandparents all through college, and growing up, I'd spend summers with them, and they were very special people. And there was Grandma watched a fair amount of TV. It was either Raiders football, it was The Price is Right, or it was the Cosby Show. Yeah, and Cosby Show came on at Thursdays at 8 p.m. Yeah, and basically the house stopped at Thursdays at 8 p.m.
That's where must-see TV started.
Yeah,
the whole concept of must-see TV.
And I remember being a kid, because that came out in 1984, sitting on the carpet in the living room with Grandma and Grandpa watching the Cosby Show, and how, that treasured memory. I don't remember really anything about the show per se. I mean, I do, but I don't, right?
Yeah, I think, well, for people that don't know, it's just a family sitcom, and Bill Cosby played a doctor. He was he delivered babies. I don't know if there's a specific term for the doctors that do that. Huxtable was.
But why was it called the Cosbys?
Well, it was just called the Cosby Show because it was Bill Cosby. Their name was Huxtable. I just don't remember the Cosby's first name in the show. It could have been Bill, but I don't think it was. But anyways, yeah, and it was super family friendly, and it was during a time period, I think, where more sitcoms was trying to push envelopes, and a lot of people like, oh, you shouldn't watch that show. You had shows like Married with Children and things that were definitely very blue.
So social commentary.
Yeah, and I mean, Married with Children was a response to the Cosby Show, the exact opposite, the most dysfunctional, family. So yeah, it was this, family friendly show. It was funny. It was well written. It was just basically Bill Cosby using a sitcom to dispense, his thoughts on life,
fatherly wisdom.
Yeah, and he was that guy. I mean, like, there was a period of time, and again, minus what Bill Cosby eventually got in trouble for. At one point, he was the father of America, and the fact that he was black, I think, probably heightened that a little bit, because again, we're doing a time period where the most popular father on TV, the person that everyone is turning to for advice and guidance and wisdom, is a black man. And so, I think that definitely was part of it as well. And Malcolm Jamal-Warner played Theo, his oldest son, and he died. He drowned. I don't know the specifics of exactly what happened, but you were talking about he was swimming with his children or something.
Yeah, but one of the things I think was neat about Theo's character, or Theo as the character on the Cosby Show, is, I think, and I don't quote me on this. Again, this is me as a 6-year-old sitting there, and then everything that came afterwards. But I recall that being like the very first character on TV that was written with like a disability, because he was dyslexic in the show.
See, I don't remember that.
And I remember...
that's right, because there was a whole episode where he was not doing well in school and he was acting out.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And so...
And I thought that even as a kid and watching that, I remember how poignant of a moment that was. And like, oh, nobody else has talked about that.
Yeah.
The only reason I knew, or I found out about dyslexia in my life was because of Theo and the Cosby Show.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that was whoever the writers were did a great job on that. And
that's totally a Bill Cosby idea. I think Bill had a very heavy hand in what that show was about. Yeah. I mean, if you think about Cosby before that doing Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, he was always on the threshold of pushing these kinds of narratives out and pushing the envelope on certain kinds of things that other people simply weren't talking about. The whole concept of Fat Albert was groundbreaking. You know, we're going to have an animated show that takes place in the hood, and these are a bunch of poor black kids, and they're doing what they can to get by and learning these life lessons and all this wisdom that's being departed as they grow into adults. And that was a big thing with Bill, was all about that positivity. And as much as you can say some of the negative things he did, which were horrendous, so it's kind of hard, you run hot and cold with him, that the positive things he did, especially for, the black culture, I think was massive.
Yeah. And I think for Theo's character is one of the reasons that show resounded through television and became must-see TV and had my grandma, sitting in her chair Thursdays at 8 p.m. is people could all identify through each of the different characters. Like you could see yourself as, oh, I'm that person.
Yeah. Theo's character was definitely very relatable. Didn't matter who you were. If you were remotely close to being a teenager, they did a really good job of putting, I think, fairly realistic situations out there and having Bill, I remember the name now, his name was Cliff Huxtable.
Oh, wow, look at that.
And, him coming in and sitting you down and we're going to discuss this and dropping some kind of wisdom on you.
Yep.
Yeah. The only thing that unrealistic about that show was it always seemed like they had some kind of uncle that happened to be famous. Like, so they would actually have like a famous like musician show up, and it's like, oh, it's so and so, the famous blues, guitarist. Why is he here? Well, you didn't know that's your uncle. They're related to everybody.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but yeah, that's a great part. But I think he was, again, when we talk about foundational people in the fabric of our early lives, and Ozzy and the Hulkster and Theo, like these are, iconic people. And especially as 80s kids, it wasn't like we had 90 million channels of TV to watch and YouTube and X and Instagram and all that. We had like CBS, NBC, and ABC.
You had 3 stations.
Right, we had 3 stations, and so which made them even more important.
Yeah.
And more part of our daily or weekly routine.
Yeah.
So, super sad with his passing and death of each of our part of our childhoods.
Yeah, it's sad day. Again, rough week for children of the 80s. That's for damn sure.
Well, speaking of another part of death of culture, this one hits hard, and we actually, Cookie and I revisited a movie. I couldn't believe that she had never seen the movie Tombstone.
Doc Holliday.
Yep. So Val Kilmer passed away in April this year, and when you think of amazing just acting talent period ever, I would put him up there in the pantheon. I mean, he's one of the few actors I can think of that actually had a signature scene without saying a single word.
Yeah, that's right.
In Top Gun, when he did the teeth chomp.
Yeah, he did the teeth chomp at Maverick. I always reference that scene.
But
what is the line? I wish I knew it verbatim, but it's something like Val Kilmer's character tells Maverick, you don't like, sorry, it's Maverick tells Iceman, like, you don't like me, and he's like, I don't like you because you're dangerous. Shit like that. Yeah. And then Cruz says something back to him, that's when he does the teeth chomp.
Yep. I think the 2 greatest film performances from an actor ever would be Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Yeah, it's iconic.
And then Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison in The Doors.
Yeah, he did a great job in The Doors.
That movie was so bananas. It was like, wait, is that really Jim Morrison?
Yeah, he did a really good job in that movie. I mean, it's probably his best film.
Oh, yeah, just...
his talents were just... Have you ever seen Top Secret, one of his early films?
Mm-mm.
It's like Airplane. It's that kind of comedy, like The Naked Gun.
Okay.
And he's fucking hilarious in it. And he's the main character. It is hilarious, man. He had a wide range. I mean, obviously, he quickly became more of a dramatic actor. And The Doors. Yeah, that was a performance. He definitely... That's hard to match. When you think about these biopics of rock stars... I would say that The Doors, if it's not the best, it's damn near close to the top of somebody, portraying, a musician.
And it wasn't the acting performance was amazing, but to have somebody that just like looked, acted, sounded, moved like him.
He did his homework.
Yeah.
He put himself fully into that role.
And I really enjoyed his role in Heat.
Yeah, I'd never seen Heat.
Man,
well, we already did this podcast.
I know we did this one.
You're lucky I've seen Tombstone.
but Heat wasn't in your list. And I would say one of my all-time favorite movies. I love the first Top Gun, but the most recent Top Gun I thought was absolutely brilliant. I saw it in the theater 8 times in all different formats, and the way that they brought Val Kilmer back as Iceman as a kind of final tip of the hat.
Sure.
I thought it was genius. And it was very like the first time of the 8 that I watched that movie, and Val Kilmer was on it was his scene. I actually had a tear like when it was the funeral and the jets flew over in the sky.
Yeah.
I thought, what a brilliant man.
Yeah. And I've never seen the second Top Gun. I know. You should see the look on his face right now.
Oh my gosh, dude. I just like flopped on the ground.
It's on my list. I've been meaning to watch it. So, but I did see the scene with him. I've seen that clip. So, yeah. I mean, again, legendary actor, and it's a shame, man. That they go. I still think he could have. I think he had throat cancer or something. It's a shame that he didn't get more of a chance to perform some more films. We got like people like De Niro and Al Pacino. These guys are still popping up in movies. So
and having babies.
Yeah, and having babies, right?
Well, it's funny too because I had made the reason that Cookie and I rewatched Tombstone is she asked if I wanted to do something, and I peeked around the corner of our little kitchen and I said, "I'll be your Huckleberry."
I'll be your Huckleberry.
And she was like, "What?" And I'm like, "What? No, Tombstone?
No,
Val Kilmer?" And she's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
If you haven't seen the film, you should know.
Gosh, see, that's gone. That's in the American lexicon at this point. Like that's even just a colloquialism.
Shit, yeah.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
Whew.
It's been a sad year, man.
Yeah.
But 80s kids, man, we thrive. Ride or die.
Ride or die.
I have an important announcement for you, so stay tuned.
Yo, that's some next level shit, bruh. So you got me. Big deal.
The internet's answer to a question no one asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
Folks, thank you for joining us for another episode of The Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I am Sean Kabibi.
And I am Joey Joe, the Fracky Mac.
Rest in peace to all the stars, all the icons that passed away this year. And years past.
Yeah, and to the Hulkster, I appreciate you, brother.
Brother. Peace.